Hello guys, welcome to another driving test video. Now this was a test at Bromley Driving Test Center just yesterday, the 4th of February 2025. The time for this test was 11:11 a.m. and sadly the test was a fail. Now I'm not even going to go too long about it. I'm not going to go explaining anything. I'm just going to let you watch this and see how this happened. Just sadly, two serious faults in 2 minutes on this test. There was only 2 minor faults, and sadly this serious fault happened just because of anxiety, too much over processing, too much of worries. So try to avoid that on your test. When you get to the point, you'd understand what I mean. So stay tuned, relax, sit back, and let's go through this test and see what we can learn from it. See what to avoid, see what to keep in mind. And in case you're wondering, the serious faults on this test are 1 for judgment crossing and 1 for response to road markings, while the minor faults or the driving faults are use of mirrors when changing direction and 1 for forward park control. So that would be during the parking. So yep, let's get back to the video. So I'm sure you probably know by now this junction can be busy at times, and if that is you on your test, remember, don't rush, take time, make sure it is safe. But of course, when it's a safe gap, then don't hesitate, do what you've got to do. Make a decision and take your action. And when pulling up on the left on a main road, especially as narrow and busy as this, remember to pull up reasonably close to the pavement and try and avoid double parking. Avoid parking opposite another car if it's possible. And remember that when you start to turn into a road, pay attention into the road you're turning to, because it seems like the learner didn't notice this van on time, so obviously stopped just as soon as she noticed. Luckily, it wasn't too late, so keep that in mind. Look ahead as soon as you made a decision to turn and you have committed yourself to do it. And at this point, they are at the car park. So it's going to be forward bay parking on this test. So the learner told me that during her parking, the examiner asked her if she was done. And you should remember that if an examiner is asking you if you are done, this is because something isn't right. So the examiner is giving you a second chance. They're giving you an opportunity to assess and use your mirrors and look around to see if everything is done correctly. Do this before you answer yes, because once you answer that you are done, then you're going to be marked based on whatever you have done. And so in this situation, the learner opens the door, as you would see very soon. So she opens the door to check around. Now keep in mind, though it is not a problem to open your door, or even in a car park like this, to come out of the car to see or look around, but please make sure you have secured your car. and a little bit of hesitation at this roundabout, but luckily not too long to have warranted a minor fault. So at the beginning of this bus lane is where everything changed. So when this learner got to this point, she saw the sign and she looked at the time. She sees the 7 to 10 a.m. and then she goes into the bus lane. But then on passing the two other signs ahead, she sees another time that says 10 to 4 p.m. So she got confused at that point. But what she was missing out was the days. Monday to Friday is actually correct for 7 to 10. So she was perfectly fine. But because she wasn't paying attention to the days, she got confused and ran back out of the bus lane because of the Saturdays. That's 10 to 4 p.m. So at this point, there was nothing wrong with it. But unfortunately, she'd already come out, which is fine. But what you should remember at this point was that she's turning right at the traffic light ahead, and if that is you, then there'll be no reason to be coming left in the first place to worry about that bus lane to start with. But anyway, she missed that, so comes back into the right lane, and as she comes to the end of the bus lane, at this point she had already forgotten the next instruction, so she comes back into the left lane, right? So we get to the light now, and I mean, we've gone through this together, and the learner said she actually saw that arrow pointing left in the left lane. So she saw it, she knew about it, but because she still kept her mind back to the situation at the bus lane because she was worried about it, maybe she thought she had failed or not. So the light changed, and she said, it took a long time before the light changed, and because of that, she forgot the arrow on the floor, so she went straight ahead, and that was it. Serious fault number one, sadly. So she gets the first serious fault there, and it doesn't end there because she's just coming to get the second serious fault at the next traffic light ahead. Now keep in mind, remember, the big lesson here is that once one thing goes wrong, please forget about it and move on from it. We could have avoided this serious fault, or actually we could have avoided the two serious faults if we had just ignored that bus lane situation and move on to the next situation ahead. But anyways, back to the current issue. So we are now turning right at this traffic light. So first of all, don't get too close to big vehicles. It blocks your visibility ahead. So as the learner has not been on this road before, she wasn't aware of the layout of this road, but she knows she's turning right. So she just followed the bus in front of her. So at this point, we can now see the oncoming bus ahead of us. But because the learner was so focused on the bus in front of her and following that bus, she didn't notice the bus coming towards her on time. So the examiner had to prompt her so she could reduce speed and wait for that bus. And even though she said she saw that bus and was going to stop for it, but the sad thing is that an examiner can only mark you based on what they see rather than what you're thinking, because they don't know what is in your mind. So this is why you've got to remember that your speed matters a lot in situations, because that is what an examiner is going to have to react or respond to, and that's what they're going to have to mark you based on. And sadly, this became the second serious fault on this test. And even from the video, from the speed she was approaching at that point, I thought she was going to try to pass before the bus. And this is the problem, because the speed doesn't look like someone who is intending to stop. And this is very important, and I hope that you are going to learn from this important situation here, because it happens during lessons as well, where I expect someone to have started reacting, but they haven't. Now, when I take action, your response at that point is, I was going to do it, but I expect you to have already started doing it. Hence why I had to react at that point. And that's the situation here. So don't wait for things to get too late or too close before you do something. You look ahead, you see a light changing, check your mirror, start reducing speed. Don't wait for it to be very close to the light before you then stop, because even if you stop at that point, it just meant that you're going to stop much more sharply than you should have, which is now no longer a safe stopping. So you see something, a potential hazard ahead, check your mirror. Even sometimes you might not even need to brake, but at least easing off your gas means that you're no longer increasing speed, which to me at that point means you have already started and you have initiated response to that situation. So think of it this way and remind yourself that it's not going to be what you think or what you were going to do, but it's going to be what your examiner feels about your current speed towards the situation ahead. Is it appropriate for what I see ahead of me? So at this point, they are coming to get back on Bontage Lane to head back to the test center. Unfortunately, as you can see, this was a very, very painful fail. The driving was going so much so good that it could have been a pass with just 2 minor faults until those situations happened. Now, keep in mind that the situation of that bus lane, it happened because of overthinking. Because if you see, even when we came back out of the bus lane, we were almost coming to the end of that bus lane anyways. So even if you were going to fail for that, coming out of that bus lane wouldn't have saved you, because we've traveled long enough in that bus lane in the first place. So forget about what has happened, move on to what you can fix. Don't ponder and stay too long on something you can't change. Leave it alone, move on, avoid another one. So yeah, that's it. Now another thing to keep in mind, because the green tests have all been moved to some has been moved to Bromley, while some have been moved to other centers around. The test center gets very busy, so your test could be ending in this car park on the right like ours did. And as you'd see, here is another test just ending right here in front of us, so keep that in mind. Your test might be ending here. I believe there was another 8 or 9 other driving tests that took place with us at the same time. It was a full car park, it was a full house. So that's how busy Bromley gets now. So please keep that in mind. Don't come and practice around in the test center when tests are to start or when tests are ending, because that's gonna just disturb and affect the ongoing tests. So the usual, remember, if you find this video helpful and you find it useful, don't forget to like the video, leave a comment below if you've got any questions, and share the video to anyone you know that might benefit from it. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please click the subscribe button. Please do that favor, click the subscribe button, and I'd really appreciate that. If that's the only thank you would do, then please click that. It would really help the channel, and that would help me, keep putting in more time to getting these videos out there. So that is really it for today. I'll see you in the next video. Stay blessed, one love, peace, and I'm out.